Good morning and happy post Thanksgiving. Uh, Trust everybody had a great couple days off. Didn't work too hard. Were able to kind of rest and reset, and are pumped to kind of get into the last month of the year. So, speaking of getting back into it, if you missed last week's show, we had Pete and Monique on, and we talked about the new Metfix Spark program. Uh, the official announcement notification will go out to all the affiliate owners next week. Okay, and then so be looking for that in your inbox around Monday, and then we're going to have a big affiliate owner call on Wednesday, and all the details, information will be into that. So the call, like you'll get all access to all the info, be able to go in, check it out, kind of tinker around a little bit, and then the call on Wednesday will we'll set aside as much time as we need to kind of go through the details, answer any questions, and really pumped to kind of get this out to you guys. So, having said that, without further ado, I am pumped to bring a friend of mine who I've gotten to know fairly well over the last year. She's a long time affiliate owner. She was on seminar staff, and we're blessed to have her on the academy team here from Metfix. And kind of more infamously, she's Chris Russell's better half. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Meghan Russell.
Hello.
How are you?
That was a sweet introduction.
Well, I'm getting better and better at this. You know what I mean?
Yes,
That was not even Chat GPT, by the way. That was straight Dale GPT right off the rip.
That's Chris is in the other room. He was waiting to see if he would make it into the intro, and he did. So I'm sure he's super happy about that. So thank you for that as well.
Pumped. Well, good. Thank you for setting aside time and joining in. After gotten to hear you speak a couple times and deliver lectures, I figured you'd be a fantastic guest just to kind of give folks a little bit about your background story and how you got to be where you're at. More importantly, kind of dive into the behavior change part of the foundations course. So, so by the way, nice Christmas setup.
Thank you. One of many. Oh, this way.
Oh,
One of many.
Go. There you go. We got about 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground, so I know you guys are not.
We are not even close. It's 72 today. So, but I'm freezing, so I have a hoodie on. So, 72 in December.
Got the hoodie on. Yeah.
Right.
Sure. Well, great. So, let's just start with where did you grow up?
Oh, wow. Speaking of the cold, so I grew up in Iowa. My whole family is from there, and they all still live there. The only people that ever left were me and my siblings. We were out chasing the things in the world that we wanted to accomplish. And so along my journey, met Chris in early 2000s, and then we moved to Florida with the military because he was in the Navy. So that's how we ended up here in Jacksonville. We live at the beach. And he retired 9 years ago, and we love living in Florida. It's wonderful here. But I visit Iowa very frequently. My grandmother's 99 and still killing it, living on her own. They make them tough in the Midwest. So,
oh yeah, I know for sure.
Yes. And so we go back there a lot. And I will say there's something, just deep in my heart. I am Midwest, like in my marrow, and just going there and experiencing seasons, and it's beautiful in the summer. It's beautiful in the winter. I just don't want to live there, but I love it very, very much.
I love it. So how did you and Chris originally meet?
We met the old fashioned way at a bar, as people do sometimes. I don't know if people meet that way anymore, but he and I have totally different stories of how we met. We can agree on the location and the fact that we did meet. Everything else is different. I was chatting with a really good friend of his whose name is also Chris, and he came over trying to be cute. Was very disruptive in the conversation, trying to get some attention. And I was like, man, this guy's real cute, but he's obviously in the Navy, and I don't do that. I don't date Navy guys. And man, he is so I don't know anybody else in the world like him. And I say that in a very endearing way. And so he worked his way into my heart very quickly, which I'm so thankful for. But, he was a typical Navy guy in a bar for a little bit there. And I was a bartender. So I was like, not having it. I was like, I see guys like you every day.
Oh, yeah. He's just one of many.
Yeah.
Is this in Florida?
This is in Virginia Beach.
Yeah. Oh, Virginia Beach. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. He was stationed there, and I moved there in my later kid years and in later elementary school years. And so, yeah, that's how we met. And he's, 20 plus years later, he's the same, but different, still very charismatic, still very, somebody you would notice in a room, but you live a lot. The more the decades go on, you live a lot. We get older, we grow, we change, we have life experiences. Obviously, owning an affiliate and being in this space of MetFix and having a CrossFit affiliate and a MetFix affiliate, that really, it just changes you in the best way, through exposure and experience. And we've owned our affiliate for 18 years. So, I want to think that people ask me, what would you do if you didn't do this? And I'm like, I have no idea. There is nothing else for me. I think I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And man, it has really sanctified us along the way. So.
And did you and Chris start the gym together, or had one of you already had it before? I'm confusing where the timelines are.
Yeah, so we had moved to Florida in 2006, and then we opened our affiliate in 2007. Chris had the knowledge and information of what CrossFit was at the time, and I had the money. So he's like, let's put some money in and do a thing. And I was like, you don't have any money. He's like, well, right, you do the money and I'll do the idea. But I also, very, very quickly was like, oh gosh, this is something. He'd been doing CrossFit for 2 years at that point, and I had no interest in doing it in Virginia Beach. And I was like, oh, this is something that could teach someone like me who had zero background in sports or fitness, anything. I was very social. I excelled. I was an elite, I was elite at socializing and all things that come with that. But seeing the way that it could be available to somebody like me, in my early to mid 20s, and just, really curious about, could there be change for me in my lifestyle and in my fitness? I was like, okay. And from the moment that it was an idea, I was all in. But it was definitely, the first year was definitely a growing process for me, just learning, doing constantly varied high intensity functional movements, just to understand them in and of myself. And then also, moving out towards what wasn't MetFix at the time, but these are Greg's original ideas of health and nutrition, and just realizing, oh my gosh, this is countercultural to everything I learned and everything I ate and everything I did, concerning health and wellness growing up. So it was very, very eye-opening for me. And then as the years went on, slowly realized, hey, this affiliate needs a full-time person, in here as we grow. We had the booming years of 2012, 13, 14, kind of, where affiliates just, went haywire. And so I slowly started to move away from my job working as a bartender. I worked part-time at Lululemon and just really kind of threw my full self into CrossFit Jacks. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Cause, Chris he'd been out of the Navy by this point, right? Around that time.
He was, so we went through a really hard season. Our hardest season was a season where he moved back to Virginia, where we came from. And we decided to separate, and I stayed here. I was here with our business and our 2 kids and our whole life. And he was up there. I had more on my plate than I knew what to do with, and he had more free time than he knew what to do with. And that's hard when you're married.
Yeah.
You feel guilty, you feel overwhelmed. But the reason why we did it was, hey, we've got this CrossFit gym and we don't want to leave it. We don't want to close it. And so we'll just do this and it'll be fine. And I'm here to tell you, people, it wasn't fine. Not at all. But the takeaway, we went to counseling for about 6 months leading up to him moving back here, because we had learned how to live 2 totally separate homes and lives. which is not the way you're meant to live when you're married.
Right.
You know, it's very different than like a deployment, which is, you know, you're gone and I'm here and you kind of like get in that deployment zone. And we had done plenty of deployments up to that point.
Yeah.
But living in two separate households, he lived with a friend of ours up there and being here, it just creates a different kind of heartache, you know? And so going into counseling, learning how to come, which I think that, you know, you take your car to get an oil change every so often because you know your car will break down and never run again if you don't change the oil. But like, where are we doing that in our lives? You know, like where are we willing to? And I think too, it even goes back to, you know, MetFix's mission of just continuing to pursue excellence in the health and fitness realm. It requires some sacrifice and it requires some humility of doing the things that maybe we don't necessarily want to do, but we believe they're good for us. And so that was very eye-opening for us. And it kind of set us on this trajectory where we just did a lot of work on ourselves and on our marriage and our family. And, you know, things haven't been the way we want them to be. So how do you want it to be? And kind of how do we get there, you know, and bridge that gap? So, and then Chris was able to move back and then he retired, you know, he retired his last Twilight tour here. And then he retired in 2016 and was off to the races of his next career, which is law enforcement. So, but in all of those seasons, I have been, you know, sort of the leader and the, you know, the full-time, you know, driver of the mission of what we're doing in the affiliate. And that has looked different through different seasons. So I feel like I've lived a few lives in my affiliate.
Yeah. So how would you describe yourself as an owner during that time? So it's, you know, it's pretty peak years. Things are bumping. And you're pretty much having to do this alone on yourself, along with juggle being a, you know, mom and a wife and everything else. So what, kind of, how would you describe yourself during that period?
Yeah. So I want to be really vulnerable and transparent with that answer. Cause I think, you know, I think that's, people need to hear the heart. It was not good. You know, it was, the things were getting done and they were getting done really well, but I was not taking good care of myself.
Yeah.
I was taking care of everybody else. My kids were young, you know, at the time. And so that requires a lot if you have young kids, you know, and I was taking care of everybody in the affiliate and trying to take care of my family and my home and take care of my husband and marriage from afar. And I hit burnout for sure. And you know, in the scenario, it's like, well, what do you do when you hit burnout? Well, you keep going. And that's a slippery slope. When at that point in my life, I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't really know how to delegate. So I did my job really well, but I was pouring out of so many places. I had a really great counselor tell me one time, you have a lot of people who have a straw stuck in you and they're sipping out and taking what they need. But where are you being poured into? Like, where are the places that you're going to and what are the things that you're doing? Because you can't pour from an empty well. And so I was definitely pouring from an empty place. And I would say that, you know, by the grace of God, I was able to continue moving forward. And I was eventually led to a place where I learned said things of like, hey, you have to pour into yourself. And that looks like, you know, my idea of delegating was I'm only going to delegate. And I'm sure affiliate owners and entrepreneurs can understand. I'm only going to delegate if they can do it as good as I can.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. There is nobody who can do it as good as I can. This is my baby. I've been in it since, you know, we wrote on a bev nap at a bar. What if we affiliated? What if we were CrossFit Jacks? What if it was, you know, nobody else has lived that besides Chris and I. So, you know, it's like when it's your baby, nobody cares about your kids as much as you do, but they love your kids and they're capable. It's me letting go and relinquishing my control and my idea that, oh my gosh, it has to be done perfectly. Well, guess what? If I burn out and go down in flames, nobody's doing anything. The doors are going to be closed and we're going to be done, which you hear that a lot in affiliates.
Yep. And I would say too, like, you know, we've been in the game roughly the same time. You've been a little longer. And it's not like this thing came with here's a 5. Here's what it looks like at 5. Here's what it looks like at 10. Here's what it looks like at 15. Everybody kind of launched this global revolution at the same time. And, you know, you can get away with a lot of stuff when you're in your mid to late 20s. But having kids, settling down, and you want to try to explore other things, well, you're going to have to learn really fast that art of delegation, or, the E-Myth book. It's like, did you create a business for you to serve, or does your business serve you, kind of thing? And I think the earlier folks can come to that realization, the better off they'll be total integral health as an entrepreneur down the road.
Yeah. On our team, I say, and so we say as a team, anything that we're doing right today is because we've done it wrong 10 times before. And this is the refining process. We're refined in the fire. And I think, going back to what you just said, which is so true, there was no playbook for this. And now I'm like, gosh, there are so few 20-year affiliates, 18. I'm thinking about the 20-year affiliate coming up for us.
Yeah.
And that it's a very emotional thing for me. And the range of motion, the range of emotion is very, it's wide. I've been through a lot. I've lost a lot. I've heard a lot. I've had a lot of joy. We've had a dozen couples in our gym meet in our gym and get married and now have children. And those things are incredible. But I've also lost a lot of sleep and years of my life. And I've lost relationships. There's been death of dreams. There's been a lot of those things. And I think the answer now is for people that, the 5-year affiliate or the 7-year affiliate or the 10-year affiliate, we have to give that back to them and say, please don't do what I did. Don't chase this idea of perfection and that you are the only one who can carry the standard forward. And nobody can do it like you. That is true. But it doesn't mean that they can't do it. And finding people on a team where their heart is so in the game. And guess where you find that? You find that in your members.
Yep.
My two full-time coaches, one had career in real estate and one was a toddler teacher. And they're just members in my gym. But I saw something in them that was like, this has potential. And then it starts with a conversation. Hey, would you like to help me with a couple things? I see you're really good at this. I would love just some small help with this. And then they get the return on investment, the reward of the joy and seeing the way that the things that they do that are way behind the scenes, people, it's not you just drop them into the full-time coaching expressway going 100 miles an hour in a 70. And they're like, this is amazing. It starts with like very small conversations. And now 5, 6, 7 years later, their faces are the people. They're the ones that people are looking for when they walk in the door.
Yep.
Not me anymore. And man, what a blessing that is for me as an affiliate owner.
Yeah, I'm so, it's not, we didn't plan this conversation, but I couldn't agree more with you. Due to my increased role at MetFix, and I'm still the proud owner of my affiliate. But I've had to take a significant step away, and I was already pretty, I've had it pretty set up to run without me for a while. But there's a difference when you're still in town, and you can always be there to tinker around. But when you're out on travel a good amount of time, it's on you guys. And it's so, it's very liberating. It's very, very liberating. And
I would say this too. I would say to you, affiliate owners, or anybody who's listening, that, wherever your head's at for this, yes, it is honorable to work in your affiliate every day, to coach majority of the classes and to, check the boxes. But what if you didn't do that? Where are you creating space in your life to do the next thing? And maybe you don't know what that thing is, but I would say since the 15-year mark, Chris and I both have been like, what is the next iteration of the Russells, like Chris and Meghan, and what we bring to the table in our affiliate? Because my coaches are, they're squared away. The 60-minute CrossFit class is squared away. 2 years ago, we rewrote all our SOPs. Things are up to date. Processes are in place. But we also don't feel like we're done. So we're in a place where we're like, well, what is it? And then, spoiler alert, insert MetFix.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I'm so pumped about, like, I'm not even on the schedule as a coach. I'm there to fill in one of our The 5:30 a.m. coach, she's going on vacation next week, so I'll be, you know, blowing the rust off and mixing it up with the.
And guess what? You're not burned out or tired. So it will be a total joy for you to go in and coach those classes, and the people will love it and you'll love it, and it'll be temporary. And then once that coach comes back, you go, you know, back and you're ready for the next thing. So being in this sort of on-call PRN type position is beautiful. It serves so much purpose. And then it creates this space for, hey, all right, so hey, Metfix Jacks, here's what this is. Hey, team, you know, earlier this year when Chris and I joined the Academy staff and decided this is something that we really are very passionate about, Greg's, you know, original mission of health and what that looks like. And we're like, all right, we're bringing this, because the fitness and the coaching in the 60-minute class, it's almost on autopilot, and it's great.
Yeah.
It's really, really great. But we're like, the pyramid doesn't have the 60-minute CrossFit class at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
It has nutrition at the bottom of it. We have World Class Fitness in 100 words written up huge in the space. You know, you saw when you came to the gym, in our gym, it's like, how often am I walking people over to that wall and saying, hey, I want to talk to you about this. And maybe these words are overwhelming. Let's just start with one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you eat meat? It's the very first word here. You know, are you eating meat? Protein. But really, because the age and demographic of our gym has shifted over the last 2 decades as we have grown, I now have people, you know, Chris is 48, I'm 45. So I've done this in my 20s, I've done it in my 30s, and now I'm in my 40s. And so I have a lot of experience and a lot of aging in there, and a lot of, you know, kind of the good and the hard. And I wish that I had this message ingrained in me in my 20s and my 30s. It might not catch me by surprise in my 40s when all of a sudden perimenopause hits and I'm like, nothing's working anymore. Everything I've been doing for 15 years that works all the time for me, it just literally stopped working. And I was in a tizzy, like, I don't know what to do. And then boom, enter Metfix. And it was like, you know, not that Metfix is the cure-all, but it's the freaking closest thing I found in the last 18 years. A sort of blanket covering to people of say, hey guys, this isn't, and I have said this a lot since I've gotten on Academy staff and we've really integrated with Metfix. I say it to my members at the whiteboard brief. Hey y'all, there was a day when I stood here at this whiteboard and said, this is about RX and PRs and this and that and the other. And I said, I'm honestly today, I don't care what you do. I'm just so glad that you're here. Because by being here, I know that you're 1% better.
Yep.
And it's not just the fitness, it's in the lifestyle and the health. And today what I want to talk about is, you know, this was before Thanksgiving. It was about, we talked about the reset button. Hey, please give yourself permission for the reset button. But the problem is in our culture is we are, you know, it's either 0 or 100. So instead of a reset button for a day or two, we've had a Thanksgiving month between Thanksgiving and Christmas, you know, and my encouragement to you is, you know, get outside, take a walk, do these things, enjoy your pie. But I'm going to be here on Saturday and Monday after Thanksgiving, and we're coming back to business, you know, and reminding you of what's true. So it has been such a mental shift and really a paradigm shift for my members where I feel like they know that they're free to come as you are and not as you feel like you should be.
Yeah. That's it. You know, we've gone through that as well. Of just like the first thing of every class we try to ask is just like, look at each person and say, how you feeling? You know what I mean? Like maybe the victory was you walking through the door. And so we don't want to stack a bunch of bricks on a fragile system right here by overdosing you. So you got to tell us how you feel, and we'll coach you to that, how you're feeling.
100%.
Because like and we've seen this time and time again is, you know, you got to be consistent before you can be anything else. And so if people are afraid to come into the gym based upon what they see on their app as the workout, and they think that's like in stone carved scripture that they must do that, you're gonna get a lot of turnover.
And it's the same thing with food, I think, and this has been a big culture shift for us in the last 3 to 5 years. We've tried to move the needle, exactly what you just said, away from this performance and that we got to do it all to, hey guys, nothing is 100% of the time. And so my job and my staff's job, and really, we have ambassadors in our gym that have been there a long time and they greet new people and see people. It's really to see them and meet them where they are. If they're inconsistent, I don't need to tell them that they need to weigh and measure their protein. I need to know that they're inconsistent and I need to get them in the gym 3 times a week. And so in my early years, I was way jumping to the end of the line, be like, you need to do this. You need to count your macros and do this. Maybe they just need to show up and feel safe to show up before I'm pushing them off the edge of a cliff that they, something that they didn't even ask for, so that's been the reprioritizing of, health over performance and also like consistency over performance and being seen over, knowing what their numbers are. It's been a real, like I said, a real paradigm shift. And because that's shifted in me, and then now my team, now it's shifted in my affiliate and in the culture, because talking about behavior change at the seminars, I get asked that question a lot. How do you get people to do this? How do you overlay this in the affiliate? How are you getting your people to shift the mindset? And it's like, well, it's like turning a battleship out in the middle of the Mediterranean. There's this big, slow turn. But number 1, you got to start. Number 2, you got to leave. What is your story? And sitting with my coaches when we first made this shift at the beginning of the year, I said to them, I'm not going to make you do anything, but I need you to have your story in this. What is your story in health? If people ask you about this, you can't just be like, oh, I don't know, I don't do it. We don't coach, high intensity functional movement. And then the people are like, well, what did you do for the workout? How heavy did you go on the deadlifts? And you're like, oh, I don't do deadlifts. It doesn't connect. So when it comes to the health and the nutrition piece, you need to know your story. How does this, affect and change your life? And what has been the byproducts of making those small changes? Because that's what people want to know. They, more than the prescription, they want somebody that they know and trust and be like, well, what'd you do? Oh, really? Okay. And to be honest with you, this has been very interesting. It's not even me and Chris. It's been my coaches, key people in my gym that people are going and tap to, because people expect that Chris and I are doing some like totally outlandish style because we're the gym owners.
Yeah.
And that's been a very interesting revelation in all of this in the last year of like, it's kind of like they think that our fitness is also something superhuman. And it's like, no, I'm working out 1 hour a day, 4 to 5 times a week, just like you are. I'm just a little further down the road. You've been doing it for 5 years. I've been doing it for 18 years. What's it going to look like in 13 more years for you when you just continually do the same thing for 13 years? That's the only difference, So it's the same thing. But that's been the biggest thing, is tapping these key people and really getting some real change from those people, my coaches and some longtime members. And it's their stories is the buzz in the gym. It's not even me and Chris.
Yeah. It's it's interesting too that you follow, like I said, we follow the life cycle of an owner. And if you're starting off and you're sole owner operator, you're doing all the classes, you're pouring everything in. And at a certain point, you need to take a step back and pour that energy into your staff.
Right.
And then that becomes your class, let's say, because you're not going to be able to give everyone equal energy all the time.
Right.
But if you set yourself up to have weekly, biweekly, some sort of routine communication to your staff, pour into them, then that's really how you can turn that into a force multiplication inside your affiliate.
And I think too, leading vulnerably, I've really been struggling prior to the beginning of this year. I was struggling really hard with all this crazy stuff happening to my body that I didn't understand. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this out loud with my people, and it's like, and what that did was it has shown them over the last 2 years, wow, man, she was in a really bad place. Wow. I gained 20 pounds in a year because all of a sudden carbohydrates did something very different to my body than they had been doing previously because of perimenopause. And it punched me in the face, Dale. And then I'm also the leader of the gym and stand in front of everybody and everybody seeing me gain 20 pounds. It's so humbling. But I was like, I'm going to do this one way and I'm going to not love it, but there's going to be something on the other end of it. Rather than hiding and keeping it to myself and then telling people, hey, guess what happened to me? It was, hey, here's what's happening. And then this shift into a low carb ketogenic diet, then they saw, oh my gosh, look what's happening, except it was going in the other direction. The needle's moving past wellness into fitness. My health markers are changing, passing through wellness into fitness, but they've gotten to see the whole story. Not just the revelation and the good change. They saw the hard days where it was, oh, gosh, I just don't know what the answer is, and then, insert Medfix. So I think leading vulnerably with your staff is also a really important place because then they're going to lead vulnerably with the people in the gym. And then other people can be like, oh, you too? Wow. I never would have guessed that that's something that you struggle with, Meghan. I thought after owning this gym for 18 years, you have it all together. Are you kidding me? I don't have it all together. I'm actually kind of struggling over here. And people are really blown away, I feel like, by that vulnerability.
Yeah. It's such a good point. And, menopause is a real thing too.
I live with a man. I know. Yes.
Menopause, and the guys, I don't want to get in an argument over who's less likely to talk about it, but all it takes is like, hey, dude, I'm struggling with this as well. Have you got your blood work done? Have you checked on your hormones? What's your diet like? And then you'd be surprised at how that just opens up a floodgate of conversation and communication.
Yeah, I'll give you a really cool example. Chris and I, both have been trying to consistently look at blood work. And prior to this, we both had some, like, if you would have asked me what my blood work was, I would have been like, it's probably pretty decent. And it came back. Right. Cholesterol's high, cortisol's high, inflammation markers, C-reactive protein's high, like everything's high, stress is all, and the weight gain and health markers are, getting worse. The fitness markers are getting worse. And I was like, what the actual heck? And then Chris kind of had some same things and it's like doing the deeper digging through the blood work. And then also the knowledge that we're learning through Medfix. Mm-hmm. He had actually created some insulin resistance because of nicotine pouches that he was using. Wow. And it was like, and if I look at a cheeseburger, I think that it's just looking at food. That's how sensitive it can be sometimes for me. Chris is the opposite. He really can kind of eat whatever he wants. Nothing really, isn't gain weight, doesn't, whatever. He's very metabolically flexible. But these markers in his blood work really blew him away. Well, he did his own. The doctor was like, well, here's a list of 5 things I want you to take. Here's a stat, this, that, and the other. And I'll be darned if he didn't chat GPT himself into understanding, really at the end of the day, like, can overconsumption of nicotine pouches create insulin resistance? And it was like, 100%. And it explained all the reasons why. But most people don't even know what insulin resistance really is and what the downstream effect of that is, and then what it can cause in your own, in your own life, depending on where you are in your life and your age and all that other stuff. So those are 2 different far extreme examples of, we both were suffering from the same thing, the systemic insulin resistance, but it came from 2 very, very different places. Yep. But we had to dig into the blood work. And also, we had to bypass the doctors a little bit. and go to people in the Medfix community that we trust and be like, what do you think about this? Because the doctor's here with the script. And like, and so Chris went back to his doctor when she went over the blood work and said, and this is a true story. Do you feel like, he told her what he had learned, talked about insulin resistance. Do you think that these things could be affected in a positive way through diet and exercise? And she said, well, yeah, I do. Most people just aren't disciplined enough to do it. So that symptom-based care that we talk about, right? In this idea of what is Medfix, this is a problem, symptom-based care. And Chris said, I'm not going to take these medications, but I'm going to come back in 90 days and I'm going to see you and let's see if it's gotten better.
Yeah.
And she was, okay, we'll see.
I'm so glad you brought that up because my folks are pretty old, getting older. Mom's in her late 70s, my dad's in his late 80s, and it's not going too well. But so we kind of been taking an increased role as a caretaker for my folks. Luckily, my wife's a nurse practitioner, so it's not as bad as it could be. But we just asked my mom to hey, let's get a handle on the prescriptions. And I can't eat 5 or 6 to 7 prescriptions she was taking. And the doctors really didn't know what, neurologist prescribed this, the GP prescribed that. She was complaining that she sleeps 10, 12 hours and then just feels tired, doesn't want to do anything else. So for whatever reason, she was on 300 milligrams of trazodone. And I was like, that's like a freaking horse tranquilizer, Mom. No wonder. And that 300 milligrams is daily that you're taking. No wonder it's gonna, and she's 5'1", 140 pounds. And it just goes to show of just the diabolical mix of pharmacological interventions to where there's no symptom-based care. And so, somebody in our age, relatively young, the sooner we get a handle on that, we're not going to have to worry about that 10, 20, 30 years down the road. And I hate to sound like the old guy in the room, but 40s to 50s isn't that long. 50s to 60s isn't that long either. And it goes faster. And you don't want to have to reverse 2 to 3 decades of not taking care of yourself when you're old. So the sooner we get a hold of this now, the sooner we start spreading the message that is, the Medfix method inside of affiliates, the better off they're going to be. And okay, the mid 20 to late 20s probably is kind of recalcitrant to hear it right now, just like they don't want to hear about financial investing either.
Right.
But if I could, kick myself in the ass 20 years ago, I would be like, the most important thing you can study right now is financial wealth investment. And
how many of our members and our affiliates have that exact same story that you just said, where it's my parents are both, they're 74 and 75. And, my mom comes to our affiliate. She works out 5 days a week. She didn't start till she was 68. So she's been doing it for, 6, 7 years now. And I am, as we're approaching the middle years of our lives in our 50s, I'm more invested in my health than ever. And I think seeing my parents, it does something even different in me where I'm because I'm going to be them very soon. And we have 2 children. And I've spoken about this before. And I just have this wonderful friend who's in the Medfix space, who I've known for years, who's had to put her mother in a home for very fast oncoming dementia.
Yeah. Yep.
And my point, and I know that a lot of people have that story, but because she's my friend, I've gotten to have a lot of the very real, raw, emotional, the stuff nobody talks about conversations with her.
Yeah.
About what this has cost her, not just financially, but emotionally and physically. What's happened now with her father since her mom is no longer in the home, and this has changed the dynamics. And it's not about, oh my gosh, we can't, we got to save them. It's really, as we're entering the ages that we are now, it's okay, how do we change the story of our own families,
Yep.
so that our children are looking at us in our 70s and being like, wow, I'm so thankful. We said to our kids over the summer, hey, everything that we're doing here is so that we can live forever with you guys. This is not just about, we don't want to take away everything or force you to do these things. It's like, we want to avoid these heavy chronic disease diagnoses. Like, it might seem like a pain that we don't have a ton of sugary snacks in the house for you right now, 16-year-old teenage daughter, who's like, I just want to be like everybody else. But it's like the pain of not having snacks versus the pain of a diagnosis later on in life. Like, and our kids are old enough that we're like, just think about that.
Yeah.
Think about what that's like. But yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. Even so, like the pain of childhood obesity. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of kids who, we live in a, terribly economically depressed area in Southern Ohio. And, obesity rates parallel the economic downturn. And it's just sad that, parents just, it's not that they don't care. It's just that they don't have the requisite education.
They don't know what they don't know.
You know what I mean? And it's just, it's really sad. You don't want to see any kid suffer unnecessarily, especially starting off in life with negative mental health due to their obesity rate. So it is, it's something you don't, like you said, you never think about having to take care of your parents. You never think about having to raise kids at the same time, but you want to stack the deck in your favor. So when life gets tough, that you're ready to handle it.
Yeah. And I think also too, going back to the leading vulnerably, it's like, as we communicate with our members, so we do a question of the day every day, and it varies all across the board. But very recently I asked a question: what is one health or fitness goal that you have for yourself in 20 years? And I was really, really blown away in a good way by how many people's answers had nothing to do with fitness and was all about health. Mm-hmm. And there was just, it's not like I did that as a litmus test, but I felt like I got a read on my community and my people and many people had the answer of, I want to be free of prescription medications. Mm-hmm. Because they have parents, these are all people, they're 40s, 50s, 60s. That's kind of the age and demographic of my gym. And it's like, for me, it's like, I want to live to be an incredible grandparent. That, that to me, now that I'm the age that I'm at, I can't wait to be a grandparent. And I can't wait to be the most rad grandparent out there, that can do all the things because of all the years we've spent pouring into our health and our fitness. And so it just really was a very positive, it just gave me a lot of, a lot of hope in like, okay, we're moving in the right direction, but where can I add more? Where can I add more information? Where can I add more value? Okay, this is because with the question of the day as a team, we're like, hey, what hits and what doesn't? Because there are some questions that people are like, whatever. And then there's some questions where it's like, I have to shut it down because we're, 5 minutes into class. But also I listen to that and I'm like, oh, okay, this is a hot topic. Mm-hmm. And this is something that we need to expand one of our mini whiteboard briefs, where we go a little bit longer on purpose to talk through some of these big ideas that we're presenting as a MetFix affiliate. So it was just a good barometer of like, okay, people have health on their mind. It's good to expand on that. And you do that through leading.
Yeah. And what I liked is, because I was at your gym when you asked that. It's not, you're just not throwing it out.
You were. That's right. I forgot. Badger. Yeah. What a time.
Yeah. I was like, I'm like, it's Friday. I'm sure it's going to be fine. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, here we go. But what I liked is you just didn't throw it up there as a theoretical. You went to each person in class and you made them answer. I think that's extremely powerful, other than just like, hey, something I want you to think about. What, right. What's your health and fitness? But like, threw it out there, and then you went down the line and everybody gave a response. So ask that question. I would say ask it frequently.
Mhm.
And then the third part from watching you guys is make them respond to you in public, let's say in that class environment. And because I had never really thought about it. I'm just kind of like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. But when you put words to why you're doing it, it makes those super early morning lifting sessions a little bit more easy to get to, because this is your goal, and it's not a 2-week goal. It's not a 2-year goal. It's something you gotta be chopping wood right now for the rest of your life to meet that goal. And because 20 years I'll be close to 65. And
That's what I was going to say. The most interesting thing about that across the board in all our classes was because if you remember, I made people say, how old will you be in 20 years? And what's a health and fitness goal? And people were like, in 20 years, I'll be 65 or 72.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, say it out loud. This is the truth of what is coming down the pipe for us is I'm not always gonna be 45. I'm 45. So I was like, in 20 years, I'll be 65. So that was one of the very sobering things. But the other thing I'll say that I like so much about that is, as a coach, if you are really listening to your people, it's then the side conversations that can take place from a scenario like that. You can see you can see the pain. You can see the insecurity. You can see the willingness or the unwillingness. And then we love to pursue people before and after class, because our people come early and they stay after. And there's a lot of conversation about, hey, so that thing you said at the question of the day, are you willing to tell me more about that? And then from there stems these really cool opportunities to pour into the specifics of those people, because we got the macro, hey, across the board for the gym, we want to move towards, we want to move towards health. We want to move towards blood work. We want to move towards low carb, lifestyle. But then in the micro is these individual opportunities to really pursue people and meet them where they are. And so that the whiteboard is a great, great time to kind of collect that data and information.
Yeah, it's a good point, Melissa. Like, depending on the age demographic of your class, it could be a very nerve-wracking question.
Totally, I love that.
But that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, we're just ripping through here. So what I'd like to kind of spend the last 15 minutes here is, we talked about Foundations course. Shameless plug. All of 2026's dates are now published. They're on our website. You can go check that out and make sure you sign up for one. But, from the very first seminar, you gave the behavior change lecture. And I think that was kind of universally well received. And it's something, you hit on it earlier, like all this information, all this stuff that we're trying to give, it's useless if we can't solve the behavior change, right? So kind of walk us through that a little bit of what you go over in the class, and maybe a takeaway or two that they could start implementing today.
That's a great question. And I'm going to hit some of the bigger points that I think are super important. Yes, I'm very passionate about the behavior change lecture. It is kind of my baby, and put a lot of heart and soul into it. And I think the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because this is something I've learned so much about over the last 18 years in working with people in the affiliate. So kind of kick things off with talking just about people. We in our gym, we call it the other 23. Like, what are people doing the other 23 hours? And really not even what are they doing? It's like, what are they struggling with? Because I think the struggle is the opportunity. So on our team, we don't say strengths and weaknesses. We say strengths and then areas of opportunity. So the area of opportunity is something where I'm not doing much with, or I'm not having a lot of results. It's like, okay, great. Because weakness is like, we also don't say things like, oh, I fell off the wagon. It's we teach people to say, you know what, today I made choices that I wouldn't normally make. Yesterday I made choices I wouldn't normally make. So today I want to make choices that are more aligned with my values or where I'm trying to go in my health and fitness. And so in the other 23, we're looking at, hey, what's hard? What are the areas of opportunity? What are things that are untapped that you haven't, tapped into yet that we want to help you with? And it's getting people to be aware, because I think a lot of people are just on autopilot and they just do what they've always done. And we're asking them to do something different. If I'm asking you to do something different, you need to know what your baseline. Like, what are the things that you're doing now? Okay, from there, here are some of the small things that we can kind of plod through, right? Again, it goes back to turning that battleship. You can't punch people in the face and be like, do this and this and this and this and this. They will turn and run out your doors and they will never come back. So seeing people and seeing what the opportunities are. And then the second part that's a really big part of this behavior change lecture is about addiction. And addiction is so powerful, and acknowledging the things in our life that we're addicted to, acknowledging the food in our lives that we're addicted to, acknowledging the behaviors in our lives that we're addicted to, and saying, holy cow, I think about food and sugar all day long, and I'm just trying to get through until the next, treat that I can have, and then get through to the next, to the next big dump of sugar that I can have, and to get through until the dessert I can have after dinner, and then wake up and rinse, repeat. Like, we have to talk about those things out loud. I mean, obviously, a big part of our story in our family is that, Chris is in recovery, struggled with some behavioral addictions. And it's like, he struggled alone by himself for a long time. And in his recovery, I learned that my addiction to sugar that I learned as a child is just as strong and important in my life as, it's all behavioral, And so I think the piece of the sugar, so in the lecture, we kind of explain this cycle of what's happening on the inside when we consume highly processed carbs, seed oils, and sugar. What is the process that's happening on the inside that we could easily avoid? But if you don't know, you don't know, And so it's kind of like you're talking about in your town. There's just not the education point. And that's the whole point of even our foundation's lecture is like, we want to give you the information to why. And when I learned about this process of what's happening when I'm eating all these things I'm addicted to, I'm telling you, Dale, it set my heart free. Instead of feeling shame and condemnation of not being able to quit sugar, I was like, this is why this is such a struggle for me to stop, because of what's happening on the inside. And it truly freed me away in a way emotionally that I've been looking for 18 years since I started all this. And I didn't really have it until I understood the addiction cycle and what that looks like. It's not just drugs and alcohol. It's commonplace things like carbohydrates and sugar that, by the way, are available anywhere and everywhere you go. Yeah. So that's tricky, right? Makes it very challenging. And then, we go through this point of, Greg's lecture on the 5 buckets of death. Hey, here are the things that, can affect our health in a way that are totally out of our control. But there's this one bucket of chronic disease, and it's affected through, pathological behaviors. And the behaviors are the very thing that are within our control that can keep us from experiencing, the diagnosis that we don't want, or the day-to-day struggle of mental health that's based on addiction to sugar that we don't want. And then, okay, how do we do that? Well, there's this line, and it's called the willful divide. And my question for you today, it's me, Megan, it's, hey, CrossFit Jacks, it's to my coaches, is what are you willing to do to kind of build that hedge of protection in your health, and then also, in your fitness through doing, constantly varied high intensity functional movement. But what are the things you're willing to do in your health, the behaviors that contribute to this bucket of chronic disease? And in that, it's like, well, what's your why? Why do you want to do this? And I feel like we spent a lot of time talking about that on this call, right? Mm-hmm. What is your why? What's the bigger picture for you? And a lot of times with my people, that's where we start. What, I'm going to ask you to do some things that you don't want to do. Why would you do it? What's the reason? What's the reason why you come here 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week? I have a big crew of people that come 6 days a week. I can't get them to take a rest day to save my life, because they just want to stay in the consistent bubble of doing the things that they love to do with the people that they love to do it with. And it's like, okay, if you're willing to come here 6 days a week and not take a rest day, why is it so hard to remove the soda from your diet? Mm-hmm. Why is it so hard to remove dessert after dinner every night, right before you go to bed? What would be the reason why you would be willing to make a different decision? And then we wrap it up with, the MetFix affiliate offers like these 4 key components to how do we move the needle. It starts with the education, and that starts with a lot of what we've talked about. Live it out, walk it out, teach it at your whiteboard, see people where they are, have these side conversations, and then obviously you want to have something bigger to offer in your affiliate. Call to action, if you will, of giving people the education. And then we coach them through it. It's not enough to just give them, drop the bomb and walk away and be like, good luck. We don't do that in the fitness. We're not like, here's a deadlift, good luck. We teach the fundamentals of the deadlift, the stance, the grip, the position, the execution. We teach, how to navigate the knees. We teach posterior chain engagement and how we do that. We teach it over and over and over for 18 years. With my staff, I'm like, can you coach Chris Russell? He's a really good mover. But at the very bottom of his squat, if you look really, really closely, his weight shifts forward into his toes. His heels don't come off the ground, but you can see the forward shift. But you got to look that close to be able to say, hey, Chris, go ahead and sit back in your heels. We're never done, and it's the same thing with the information that we're teaching in MetFix. And then we have the community. The community in health is the same as the community in fitness. So what we did in our gym before we, rolled out an official thing was we took like 8 people in our gym and we tapped them and said, would you be willing to do this with us? We kind of want to experiment with this thing. And I know, we know you've had some bad blood work or you've been wanting to lose weight or we know it's this, that, and the other. Many of them were couples, which was really helpful to have somebody in your life do it with you. I have 20s, 30s, 60s, and we're like, we do this with us for 3 months and we'll do it with you for free. And they were like, hell yeah, I'll do it. And everybody started with blood work. And then it was like, they knew the other people in the gym that were also kind of moving towards this low carb lifestyle and moving towards ketogenic diet. And then they had each other to talk through, but it's like the community is rich, but it's so much less about, how many people were in your class. It's more about how many personal interactions did you have in that class? Was that available for you in the community? It's the same thing with the health as it is with the fitness. And then, obviously we offer, the exercise, which in our affiliate, that's already happening.
Yeah.
Very low barrier to enter. People are already coming for exercise. In this, in the behavior change, we talk about the fitness is the Trojan horse. They're already coming for that. But then use that as a way to tap them and say, hey, I heard you talking about, you're struggling with what to make at home to incorporate more protein. I'd love to sit and have a conversation. Or, hey, heard you talking about, your blood work. It's the blood work has been incredible. And I've talked about this in the at the foundations course. When I used to sit with people and be like, tell me about your diet. They're like, oh, I do pretty good. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like good according to you? That's scary because good according to me, it's like, but when you ask people to get blood work done, they come and they're like, what do you see? Tell me about what you see. They're bought in because my blood work doesn't judge your blood work, Dale. Yours is yours and mine is mine. And there's this essential piece to where it's like, you're looking through this peephole into your health with your blood work and people are like, tell me what you see. There's a little bit more of the weight to it, this kind of long-term, where am I at? And, one of the guys, he's 29 and he's like, I don't want to have high cholesterol at 29. I'm 29. I work out 5 days a week. I work out really hard in here, but I'm experiencing a lot of bunking in my workouts and I'm having this high cholesterol. What's the deal? I'm 29. And yeah, totally. Let's talk about it a little bit. And then the people that are older, in their 60s, they're kind of like what we were talking about. They're like, okay, we are of the age.
Yeah.
And, like a million doctor's appointments. I don't want to go to a doctor's appointment every day. I have to maintain. I want to go to my MetFix affiliate to maintain. And that's really where we're wanting to lead them to. So that's kind of the overview of the behavior change piece. It's looking at the lifestyle, talking about addiction and how it plays into that, talking about, well, there's got to be some ownership in here. What are you willing to do?
Yep.
And then talking about the tenets of the MetFix affiliate and how this is really how we achieve those things.
Yeah, and everything you said is basically kind of distilled down into the Spark program. And what we're asking folks to do is join us in January, and we kind of launch this program together. And it starts with, week one is really awareness. Exactly what you were saying. Like before we want to tell you what to do, what not to do, let's just be aware of what we're consuming, the habits that we're engaged in. And then we can go into talking about quality of food and quantity of food, and then kind of ending with understanding different biomarker measurements.
Yeah.
To see where we're at on that spectrum. And more importantly, it provides you an opportunity to sit down out of the 60-minute class environment, to where you don't feel like you need to rush into this stuff and you only got 10 minutes to do it. It's a whole 60-minute time period that you can, and you just need to look at it as it's a half lecture, and then it's a half Q&A / counseling, group counseling at the end of it, to allow people to, if they feel the need to talk about the struggles, to ask the questions. Well, I thought this was eating healthy. This was not eating healthy. And it's designed to be an intro for that. And then it's up to you to continue that on for as long as you want. But we've kind of codified this little program, and we're excited to get out of it because it's everything you need. Like at a certain point, even if you've been doing this for a while, you just can't out-train a bad diet. And so we're taking our time. We're kind of resetting, slowing it down, and allowing owners and trainers the ability to preach that message.
And I think also, for us affiliate owners to take ownership, no pun intended, I go back to what I said in the beginning, like, hey folks, we're never done. We are not done. If you own your affiliate, I don't care whether you coach every class or you have a full-time staff and you have full autonomy. It is our duty and responsibility. And to be honest with you, it is a blessing to be able to bring this type of information to the people in our lives, because not only for these people, but the ripple effect for all the people in our members' lives that we might never see and never meet. And all of a sudden they're making the changes in their lives. The number is thousands. It has to be for us, 18 years.
Yep.
And it's not, I don't need credit for that. I don't need to know what it is, but I know that it's happening. And so it's like the mission and vision of what we're doing as affiliate owners. There should never be, and your coaching, you should never be like, I'm the best coach there ever is. I'm done. I've arrived. We should always be looking at that next layer of how can I continue to add value here? And I think for the longtime CrossFit affiliate, one of the things that has been missing is, how do we add value in health? How do we add value in longevity in health? Not just losing, 10 or 15 pounds in a 90-day challenge that starts January 1st. This is a roving clock that, hey guys, the clock is ticking and the days are turning every day. I have so much faith that the sun is going to rise and set every day. Like, it's happening, and then all of a sudden I wake up one day and my kids are adults and, I'm going to be 50 and it's all these things. It's like, gosh, we have so much opportunity to empower our members and take ownership over the way that we're leading them in the affiliate, the information that we're giving. Because for years I've been like, here's the world-class fitness in 100 words. Here's the bottom of the nutrition. There's lots of ways to do it, but I wasn't giving them the deeper why.
Yep.
I was just calling it health. This dives into so much more specifics. Greg's really offering us this bigger picture of why. And what we've done on the academy is we've taken his super robust, drink from a fire hose, incredible vision for what this looks like. And we've put it into, bite-sized pieces that we can digest, like one bite at a time. So we take it and digest it, and then we put it out to our affiliate. We take it and digest it and put it out to our affiliate. And it's, it's incredible. The message is incredible, and it's life-giving, which is, both a true and it's a tangible and an intangible statement.
Well, Megan, I can't think of a better way to wrap it up. That was very well said, and a great call to action. I could talk to you all day. I'll definitely going to have you back. Look forward to seeing you out on the road somewhere. Please send my best to Chris. I tell the story all the time. Chris and I were getting coffee somewhere, and I go, I'll have a large Americano, And then Chris right behind me goes, I'll have a small Filipino. And so
Right.
that's my favorite Chris Russell story. That just describes him perfectly to me. So
it describes him perfectly because he is a small Filipino, but also his sense of humor is not, I mean, it is tip of the spear. So lots of laughing. Hey, babe, Dale says hi.
All right. Appreciate you. You guys have a great day. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.